Hello, everybody. Hope everyone's having a great day. Welcome to the Week Ahead News Show, episode 55, with me, Liam, my good friend Tommy.
Hello, everybody. Unfortunately, I do not have my green screen set up. I was going to put like some sand dunes behind me, some oil infrastructure on fire, some missiles flying over, but unfortunately, we just got this regular ass divider behind me. But here we are, and let's get rolling on the pain train.
Hope everyone's having a great start to their week. Once again, it's episode 55. It's currently March 23rd, 2026. I'll go into real quick. Make sure you like, subscribe, ring that bell. Our Facebook is in the description. I'll be going over weather real quick. Today we had a high of 42, low of 28 with lots of snow. Tomorrow we have a high of 46, low of 24, partly sunny. Wednesday partly cloudy, high of 56, low of 33. Thursday 70% chance of rain, high of 67, hot one, low of 48. Friday 75% chance of rain, 55 high, 27 low. Saturday partly sunny, 42, 23. Sunday partly cloudy, 50, 30. Monday partly sunny, 61, 38, getting back into those warmer temps. We'll go into sunrise. First light today was at 6:53 a.m., with sunrise today being at 7:21 a.m. Sunset today being at 7:38 p.m., and last light being at 8:05 p.m., so we're getting over that about 12 hours and 17 minutes of daylight, which is awesome to see. We had about 0.1 inches in the last hour, so this rain probably won't stay around too bad. Our moon right now is in waxing crescent, 30% illumination. Next moon set is at 1:44. Moonrise is at 9:38 a.m. and our next full moon's in 10 days for you werewolves, so be careful for that. Tommy will be going into our stocks from the last 5 days, a week behind us. And it looks like we actually had good gains today, like 1.15 to 2.3% gains. I know a lot of that is like stuff going on with Trump. So, Tommy, go over the last
Yeah,
5
so
day stuff.
we got some gains today. Stocks over the past 5 days have been down. Dow was down 1.8%. S&P 500 was down about 2%. Nasdaq was down about 2.4%. So that war is still hitting those stock markets as
Yeah,
no
and
one's
high
really
gas
survived.
prices.
Yeah.
All right, sounds good. We'll be a little quicker tonight. First, we have a funny topic, some diaper diplomacy still blowing up. It's one of the strangest and funniest political trends dominating the internet right now. Some people calling it diaper diplomacy, if you haven't heard of it. Viral videos use AI to transform major political figures like Donald Trump or Joe Biden into talking babies, which is funny. I'm complete with oversized hands, baby voices, and diapers, delivering real political speeches, which that's actually a good comedy thing to me. It's not hard to do, but we've seen both sides, so that's cool. The second layer, however, is like for trend's popularity. The audio is often real, so it's kind of funny how the internet runs with it and changes it. And we've seen a lot with Trump and everything going on with him so far, and we'll talk more about that. And it's crazy. I'm gonna be talking about how he brought back the Christopher Columbus statue, a replica of one that was dumped in the Baltimore Harbor. So that kind of shows us how much of a baby he is being, because it's like, at least in my eyes, we have so many issues right now, and we'll be talking about it with ICE at airports and not really helping TSA agents. Trump cannot find a good solution for anything. It's kind of just all hogwash to me. So it's kind of funny to see this. I kind of like it. It'll be funny to see like Vladimir Putin, Kim Jong Un, and Xi Jinping as like maybe a baby. What's his name? Winnie the Pooh. That would be kind of funny because I know he loves being Winnie the Pooh. If you go to China and you call him Winnie the Pooh, they will give you a free hotel ride, free stay, free food for a little bit. You have a really good time if you call Xi Jinping Winnie the Pooh over there. So it's funny to me. I just want to be a little bit quicker one. So Tommy will be going into real quick the international topic, which is kind of what we've been talking about the last couple weeks.
Yeah,
The
for sure.
Iran war update.
Yeah, so I just titled this one Iran War Update because there's a war and we need to do an update. Um, so yeah, so it's been like what, 2 weeks now? 3 weeks now since hostilities began against Iran, and it has just been, oh my God. I was talking to a friend of mine and I was like, I just want to scream. I was like, it's ridiculous. So today, um the Trump regime announced very strong talks were underway with Iran, citing 15 points of agreement. He named Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff as lead negotiators. So for those that don't know, Donald Trump is trying to wage um, this war without any sort of understanding of the fact that the Iranians were going to shut down the Strait of Hormuz and cut off 1/5 of the world's oil. So Donald Trump is like, oh my God, I'm surprised by that. So all of a sudden, he's allegedly, entering in negotiations with the Iranian regime to reopen the strait. However, Iran denies this. The speaker of Iran's parliament flatly denied direct negotiations, calling Trump's statement a tactic to calm rattled energy markets, which very well could be true. The demands the U.S. is pushing for a total end to Iranian enrichment and the elimination of nuclear stockpiles, terms that Iran has historically rejected. Also, what is going on is a bunch of ultimatums, saying that the United States of America will not bomb the energy infrastructure of Iran if Iran does not if Iran agrees to not disrupt and attack innocent shipping in the Strait of Hormuz off their coast. And Trump has been pushing this. He's been saying, we're going to bomb your energy infrastructure if you don't do this. And it is just very, very, very unclear, what sort of negotiations are going on, if any. Nobody really, really knows what's going on. All we know is that Donald Trump, who is a liar, says that there's 15 points of agreement. Personally, I don't necessarily believe that. I also don't necessarily believe the Iranians either, given that the Iranian government is really broken up into two factions of hardliners and non-hardliners, that they sort of conflict with each other and stuff. So really, we're presented with a fog of war type situation here where we don't know what's going on. What we do know is the global and human impact. Oil and gas prices have surged over 50% since the war began on February 28th. Experts say the crisis now dwarfs the oil shocks of 1973 and 1979 combined. Trump's optimistic comments briefly lowered energy prices, but analysts worry that the relief won't last. Also, rising death toll. Over 2,000 people have been killed in over the last 3 weeks. Iran and Lebanon, over 1,300 civilians in Iran and over 1,000 civilians in Lebanon. Israel reported 15 deaths from an Iranian attack, including concerns over missile strikes near its nuclear facility. And U.S. has reported 13 American service members killed to date. So, trying to just really condense a war update here. But as I was saying, just keep the lack of energy infrastructure, the lack of oil going through the Strait of Hormuz is really creating a big, big, big problem for the world. And that's why the Trump administration is trying to seemingly, either make up the fact that they're negotiating or, they are actually negotiating. This war, it's entering into uncharted waters where we're not only just disrupting the international shipping of fossil fuels, we're also attacking the means of production of all of these fossil fuels. Liquefied natural gas is a very, very, very big concern right now. There's just simply not enough of it in the world right now, and there's going to be less of it going forward with increased demand. So keep an eye on how many of these oil production facilities, how much of these liquefied natural gas facilities survive. Keep an eye on what sort of negotiations, if any, are underway between Washington, Jerusalem, and Tehran. Keep an eye on that, and keep an eye on just the health and the safety of our service members out there. Yeah, it's pretty much all I had to say about the Iran war. It's pretty much just we're kind of just circling the toilet. We don't really know what we're doing over there. That really hasn't been clearly articulated to the American people. The only thing that seems to be being accomplished right now is death and destruction and high gas prices. So that's just a semi-quick Iran war update for everybody. What do you have to say, Liam?
Yeah, thank you for that, Tommy. It's interesting we talked about 13 American service members, 2,000 people in total being civilians. 1,300 in Iran, 1,000 in Lebanon. Just crazy and sad. And we see that
Yeah.
Trump's lying about it, so that's interesting to me. You know what I mean? The person
Yeah.
from Iran might be right. They might just be doing that to calm oil markets.
Yeah.
So it would be really interesting to see what happens.
I think it's interesting. I think they're all lying. I don't know. It's interesting. Like it's so hard to tell the truth. I don't believe Donald Trump for a minute, obviously. Um, I think this was just probably a measure to calm global oil crises,
Mm.
but the Iranians have been known to in the past, send out mixed signals. They'll have like their hardliners send out a signal and their non-hardliners send out a signal, and that will give their supreme leader like two options. Like we can go left or we can go right. So it's just really, really, really hard to know the truth right now.
I see. Good to know. Thank you. And it makes sense. That's how they are sometimes. And it's just crazy what's happening with everything. So we'll keep talking about it. We talked last week about the service members that were killed on the fueling plane. So that was crazy sad. That shouldn't really happen too much in modern war. And so is just how, I don't know, how not smart they're being with some of these things. So I would much rather be smart with this stuff. We'll go on to national topic 1. Make sure you guys drop a comment if you're enjoying anything. Drop a like. It's about kind of we talked about before. Trump added a Christopher Columbus statue near the White House. It's a replica of one that was downed by protesters. 13-foot statue of Christopher Columbus has been installed outside the Eisenhower Executive Office building right next to the White House. The move comes directly from President Trump and is being framed by his administration in a way to honor what they call a founding figure in American history. I think I saw on their post about it, they're like, this White House thinks he's a hero, and Biden said he's not a good guy and stuff like that. He got really butthurt over that. It's not any statue as a backstory that's fueling controversy as well. The statue is a replica of one that was torn down in Baltimore in 2020 during a wave of protests following the killing of George Floyd. At the time, demonstrators targeted monuments tied to colonialism and racial injustice, and the original Columbus statue was pulled down and thrown into a harbor, which is awesome to see. That is America in a nutshell. Now, pieces of a destroyed statue have been used to help create this new version, essentially turning a symbol of protest into a symbol of restoration. Like I said, they said he'll be honored for generations to come. That's what the White House said, that he's a hero. President Trump has also been very vocal, promoting a traditional view of Columbus as a pioneer whose 1492 voyage helped shape the modern world. Do you ever know, Tommy, where he actually landed?
It's in the Caribbean.
It was in the Caribbean.
Yeah.
And he thought it was America. Whatever.
I'm just saying, I bet the president doesn't know that he didn't land in America. I bet Donald Trump earnestly believes that, Christopher Columbus, plopped his fat ass down on Washington, D.C. and was like, this is the United States of America. Like,
Yep.
That is not what happened, people.
And for many Americans, Columbus is no longer viewed as simply as an explorer. Over the past decade, his legacy has been reevaluated and heavily criticized, particularly for his role in exploration, and suffering of indigenous people. Shift has led to real changes across the country. Cities have removed a lot of the Columbus statues. Some states and institutions now celebrate Indigenous Peoples Day instead of Columbus Day. The broader conversation has moved towards how history should be remembered and who gets honored. Not everyone should get honored. Same thing with Confederates. This new statue isn't really about Columbus. It's about which version of history gets elevated. And we've seen that before in the past with the women of a Confederacy and stuff like that. So it'll be interesting to see. I'm not really happy about it. It gets kind of dumb. It's not really just about a statue. It's about how what countries choose to remember the past and how the choices shape its identity moving forward. So a good example is in Germany. They didn't build statues of Hitler, Himmler, and, Goring, and say, well, we're having these statues to remember them. They built a lot of memorial sites and museums, and you would learn. If you look at Nuremberg, what is that? Did I say that right?
Nuremberg, yeah.
Nuremberg, yeah. A lot of it look like they're massive rally areas, or kind of nowadays have small areas to remember and see, and then the rest is like a park. You know what I mean? A lot of it is they kind of wanted to remember this as something that wasn't good, and that we should remember the deaths that they caused rather than the actual Nazis themselves. We should have learned a lot from that with the Confederacy. Personally, I feel like, especially growing up in Ohio, the Confederacy was wrong. They were fighting for slavery. People say it was for states' rights, it was for an economy. That state right was to allow slaves. So you could always say that, but it's the most dumb argument ever. Um, so personally, like I kind of feel the same way about certain things. You know, I'm not like Tony Soprano, an Italian who thinks Christopher Columbus is a great Italian American. You know, I think people like Mario Andretti are, but not guys that poison people and kill them and kind of commit war crimes on them through bio warfare. And it's interesting. I was watching that Nuremberg movie again, Tommy, with Brandy last
Yeah.
night, and you know what? One of the things they convicted, well, not convicted. I mean, they convicted him in the end, but most of these Nazis for doing, and
For
this is a,
humanity.
yeah, one of them was
Uh,
deportation.
yeah, it makes sense. Yeah.
And I go, huh, that's interesting. But we'll talk about that later and with everything going on with ICE. But kind of just shows how we need to remember our history. You know, what I mean, people aren't going to be putting statues of ICE officers up. So, what do you think, Tommy?
So listen, it's just ridiculous. Christopher Columbus didn't discover America. Christopher Columbus, he landed in the Caribbean. He perpetuated slavery, disease, sexual assault, all these terrible, terrible, terrible things. But somehow, the United States of America, we just act like that he founded the United States of America. He did not. He never set foot in the United States of America. So the whole, he's a bad man, and it's a myth. It's a myth. It's not true. So the fact that people just seem so stuck up on this, like, why are they defending a guy from you know, 1492 who didn't discover America and just perpetuated slavery and disease and loss. It's just ridiculous. He has nothing to do with America other than the fiction that we created around him. So yeah, it's just crazy. I just don't get it.
And we've talked a lot about Republicans. They don't have like the emotional intelligence to really be like, well, we can criticize something and not say it's the worst thing ever, or not say it's bad. We shouldn't have had it. We're allowed to criticize things without like just getting total butthurt over it. But we see that with everything in history. And it's like, come on, guys.
Yeah.
Like a good example. We remember World War II, but we also remember that us ourselves, the Americans, put American Japanese after World War II, after Pearl Harbor, into working camps. You know what I mean? It's one of the arguments Nazis made against us. We also didn't kill them in those camps and made them death camps, but we made them work. It's kind of been a thing we've done in war for a long time before then. But that doesn't mean America's bad. It's just we have to learn about that. So then maybe when it happens again, we don't do that again. You know what I mean? We don't need that in the modern day era. When we're fighting the Middle East right now, we don't see us taking, most Muslim people in America and putting them in working camps. That wouldn't be right. So we've made changes in the past and been able to criticize them and be like, this is bad. We shouldn't do this. So that's really it for me, Tommy. If you're ready to go into national topic two, that works
Yeah.
for me.
Let's talk about some ICE agents and airports. Boo. So Donald Trump deployed hundreds of ICE agents, officers to at least 13 major airports. The agents are tasked with assisting TSA, which is facing severe staffing shortages as unpaid screeners call out of work or resign. Border Czar Tom Homan and Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy clarified that ICE agents are not conducting actual security screenings. Instead, they are performing non-screening duties such as monitoring exit lanes, crowd control, checking passenger IDs. Impacted airports include the New York area, JFK, LaGuardia, Newark. Yeah, don't go to Newark Airport, by the way. I'm sorry. Every time I read the word Newark, I'm like I'm just brought back to my time at Newark International Airport trying to catch a connection. Do not go to Newark. Avoid that as if you're traveling. Atlanta, um, Houston, other cities, Chicago, Philadelphia, Phoenix, Cleveland, New Orleans, Miami, Fort Myers. So wait times and disruptions. Despite the deployment lines remained long, and in Houston, wait times range from 2.5 to 4 hours, and several airports have been forced to close certain checkpoints entirely due to staffing crisis. There's escalating tensions, the presence of ICE agents some seen in tactical vests with holstered handguns has drawn criticisms from labor unions and Democratic lawmakers. Critics argue that using immigration officers for aviation security is escalating tensions, and that agents lack the specialized training required for the role. Agents will not be wearing masks, so while they are not in the airports, because Donald Trump said that the mask should be reserved for when they are dealing with murderers and criminals. And just again to repeat, that really there are not murderer and criminal, illegal immigrants. That's a very, very, very,
Yeah,
very,
Tommy,
very
do you know what I would
small
say?
proportion of them. Americans just in general commit way more crimes than illegal immigrants. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah, real quick, Tommy. Sorry. If like we talked about before, that they're only arresting like 10 to 14% of criminals, there's probably that percent walking around airports. They really think about it. People with minor crimes or who are drug smuggling. Trump's just ridiculous. Because even before, like we said, they've only arrested 14% of people they got are criminals. So all they do is lie. Sorry, go on.
No, you're good. So, what I want people to take out of this story is the fact that we are living right now through once again another Republican manufactured crisis. Okay, so here are some facts for you. Okay, the fact is that Donald Trump is the president of the United States. I don't like it, but it's a fact. Okay, okay. Another fact is that Mike Johnson is the Speaker of the House and the Republicans have a majority. That's a fact. I don't like it. I think Mike Johnson's a cuck. Just throwing that out there. And then another fact is you have Senator John Thune, who is the Senate Majority Leader. He's a Republican. He's in charge of the U.S. Senate. Okay? So, but you go on Facebook and you see the rhetoric of right-leaning individuals, and all they say is, this is a Democrat shutdown. This is a Democrat shutdown. Democrats need to fund DHS. And that is just not the position. That is not an accurate description of the position that is actually unfolding. If Republicans want to reopen our airports and make them more accessible by increasing, by getting the TSA people back, by ensuring that they're properly paid, they should reach across the aisle to Democrats and work with them on some sort of common sense reform to ICE, which is part of the Department of Homeland Security. But instead, the Republicans have again taken the route of, we're just going to gaslight the American people. We're going to say this is a Democrat shutdown when it is not a Democrat shutdown, it is a Republican shutdown, because they control all three branches of government and they refuse to work across the aisle towards ICE reforms that the vast, vast, vast majority of Americans want. And in fact, when you see the fact that ICE agents are being rolled out into airports, I take particular, notice of the fact that Donald Trump said, "Don't wear masks in airports." The whole thing used to be, Donald Trump would say, ICE agents have to wear masks because they'll get doxxed. Okay, but now you're saying they don't have to wear masks in the airport. Okay, so clearly somebody in this White House acknowledges that there is an underlying disconnect towards immigration enforcement and how it's being conducted right now in the United States. And if they recognize that, they should actually reach across the aisle to Democrats, work with them, come together with some sort of compromise that protects the rights of our citizens and opens our airports. But it's Republicans and not Democrats who actually have to govern this country because they're in charge. That's all I have to say about this.
They should reach over the aisle. You talked about with over 400 officers resigning, right?
Yeah, on TSA call-out rates. Yeah, they reached a record 11.8% on Sunday, with over 400 officers having resigned since the shutdown began.
That's crazy.
Correct.
Yeah, and I saw interviews from Cleveland today, and there was an old white guy, and he was like, "I don't like them. You know what I mean? They're getting paid, and the TSA's not getting paid. They shouldn't be here." Kind of is messed up. They're there for non-screening purposes when they need help with screening. So Trump's so dumb. It blows my mind.
Yeah.
A really good example.
Right.
Let's say you have a really big water main breaker. No, not even that. Not even that. Let's say you have a industry fire in your city and your fire department can't put out the flames. You're not going to call all the police departments around you to come shoot at the freaking fire. You're going to call the other fire departments at you around you to come help put out the fire. Same with a water line, right? You know what I mean? You're going to have people that know how to do it, fix it. He's putting people that don't know what to do in there, and they can't even help them with screening. It's so dumb. It is. It makes no sense. To me, it's kind of like a show of force. And like people said in Cleveland as well today, it's going to deter people from actually going to the airport. And we still see long lines. So it has to be crazy. You know what I mean? If you're an immigrant, you're not going to be at the airport.
No.
Even if you have a green card. I know people that have working visas and are afraid right now. So it's just crazy. You know what I mean? These people should be citizens. It takes a long time for someone to become a citizen. Even I've seen it even as an engineer. It could take them 10 years. So it's crazy. It really is. And we need to fix stuff like that. And having them go to airports just isn't a solution to me.
No, it's not a solution. And the Republicans are never an answer of solutions. They're an answer of problems that they can then gaslight the American people about. You know, it's just crazy. Republicans have had so many years to solve immigration, and they have not. In fact, you know, over the past they have, you know, sunk bipartisan border deals. You know, because they want to keep the racism alive for their electoral base.
Agreed. And it's always something different. Because his first election was for Wall. And he put up a lot of for Wall. If it would have worked, we would have had all these immigrants come in. During Biden, like he's saying. So it blows my mind. Because now this election, he realized, oh, the wall doesn't work. I'm not going to act like it works and fund it. I'm going to actually go after the people here. And this is sad. It is. We've had this in the past, and it hasn't lasted long. But this is lasting too long, in my opinion.
Well, and you know, it's just crazy, Liam, because, you know, the president of the United States, of course, right now is an asshole, 100%. You know, but he's also a deeply, deeply, deeply unserious man. Like, you know, like at least people in the past, like George W. Bush was an asshole. You know, George W. Bush sank the whole economy, got us into an illegal war in Iraq. You know, but and he was not a bright man by any means. You know, but um, did he bring us down to the depths of the depravity of Donald Trump and the stupidity of the Trump regime? No. And that's what's so scary is we're dealing with fundamentally evil people that also lack the hello? I got cut out. Yeah, can you hear me still? Okay. So yeah, that's pretty much all I had to say on that. Sorry, I think my internet cut out there briefly. I agree. I think it's great for the
Oh man, I
for
was
for
muted that entire
McDonald.
time. I'm sorry, Tommy. Sweet Jesus.
Oh, were you?
I think I was. Unless I clicked it late. Like, I'm sorry, guys. Me being sick. I'm gonna have to go through that again. Um,
You're fine.
I'm dead, bro. So, major investment coming to a village at McDonald, as officials have secured about 1.4 million in funding aimed at improving everyday local infrastructure. We'll talk a little bit about more. Oh yeah, Trevor was letting me know. Thank you, Trevor. I appreciate that. Appreciate you watching too. I'm dead, bro. All right, we'll go a little bit more. It's an OPWC grant, I'm pretty sure. Significant portion of the money will go to street resurfacing and repairs, like many older communities in Northeast Ohio. McDonald's has roads that have deteriorated over time due to weather, traffic, or long-term wear. Funding will allow the village to tackle some of those long-term standing issues, improving driving conditions and reduce maintenance costs down the line. You know, a lot of times, even in Gerard, we see the streets have horrible potholes after winter. A lot of the times, if it's a deep pothole, like that's subsurface issues. There's what they call substrate issues for a road. So a road has like surface asphalt, a base asphalt, and then it has gravel. If you're seeing gravel and that pothole's that deep, you're going through both of the layers of asphalt, and then you mess with that gravel, and that gravel's whole reason is to be a base for that asphalt for drainage. So like if you mess with that, you're kind of messing with the whole roadway. Um, a key focus is sidewalk improvements. Officials emphasize that sidewalks aren't just about convenience, they're about safety. Cracked or uneven walkways can create hazards, especially for seniors or people with disabilities, and anyone with any mobility challenges. By upgrading sidewalks, the village hopes to make neighborhoods more walkable and accessible. We talked about before, a third major component is parks and rec spaces. Details may vary, but it's to enhance public areas where residents gather. And I've worked on some projects like that where we've helped out parks while helping out over OPWC money as well. I mean, it's interesting as well because I was telling Tommy when I was muted, um, I've done like 2 block sidewalk projects. Just sidewalks, it's about 100 grand. Sidewalks aren't too expensive. But if you were repairing the whole road to the sub base, redoing all the utilities like water, sanitary, and storm. And when you redo those utilities, you also have to redo your connections to the houses. So the more houses you have, for way more money it's going to be because that's one of the most expensive part of a job, is connecting service lines. And I've had projects be $500,000 to $1 million for a job like that. So it really all depends. In short, while the 1.4 million might not sound massive in context of national politics, for a village like McDonald, it represents a meaningful impact in the basics: safer streets, better sidewalks, and improved public spaces. So another good example, like I was saying before, that project I was talking about, that was $1 million for 1 block. That was all OPWC money. What that city's going to do is they're going to do it by block because they know that they could only get a certain amount of money from OPWC every year. So what they'll do is they'll do a top first block, get that free money. Next year, they're going to submit for grant for the block down the line, keep going down, and make those improvements year by year. So you could always phase this out, and that's a very smart thing to do as well. So it's really good to see, I think, the local community. We've seen Gerard, Lordstown a lot. Niles, basically any community, townships, they need OPWC money. They can't really fund off their own. A lot of the times with roadways as well, just because of how low tax values they get. So it really helps. So like OPWC is Ohio Public Works Commission that basically gives out grants to these villages to help them improve. As a village, you have to submit what projects you want to go to, and like a lot of times it's actually a point system where it's basically what the most important thing is how long are you extending that life. So a really good example is if you do a roadway, it only has about 20 years of life. Well, if you say I'm also going to redo the water line and the sanitary line on that road, those utilities have 100-year life plus. So now that average goes up, and OPWC is happy because they're not just redoing a road that they're going to have to redo in another 20 years to give you the money for. They're going to redo the road, all the utilities, and maybe you could just resurface it every 5 years and actually maintain it. So in 20 years, we don't have to be at the spot. So it's really interesting. Any comments, Tommy?
No, just very briefly, I think this is great for McDonald. Obviously, keeping our streets our streets resurfaced and repaired, our sidewalks safe, and our parks and recreational spaces clean and sufficient. Is very important for our local governments to provide it. And I'm happy that the citizens of McDonald, get that ability to enjoy this rejuvenated infrastructure. It's truly good all around. It's good for the citizens. It's good for the workers that are doing the work. It's good for the engineers designing it. It's truly just good public policy. So I'm very happy.
Yeah, agreed. And sometimes I'm working on a project right now. It's going to be this village's first pump station, all paid by OPWC or US EPA, Ohio EPA grants. So that's one thing that's really nice too. With like, not all the time these areas actually have good people to understand how to do these applications. Sometimes they do, but a lot of times it's easier to bring in a consultant firm that has a lot of people that know how to do that and can really get you those grants easier. I know a lot of companies, they have people that's all they do is grant work for these cities. And that's really good because it makes them really efficient. It makes it easier for these cities to actually get the grants and money. And it helps the city out too because they're not spending a lot of money on their own people, kind of like turning their heads. Oh, how do we get this grant? How do we get this grant? Let's talk to some people who have gotten this grant. And we've seen this too with mayors. Sometimes they'll go to different cities or villages and ask around, well, what did you do to pay for this? How did you get this done? So very interesting to me. I think that's really about it for me and Tommy tonight. I hope you guys enjoyed all the topics. Sorry for being muted there at the end. Must have accidentally clicked my button. Gotta move it off.
To Trevor.
Yep, thank you, Trevor. I appreciate that, dog. Thank you guys for watching, too. Make sure you drop a like if you're enjoying the content. Any comments or chat rate you want to talk about, put it in the chat. We'll be here Thursday for Northeast Ohio Sports Show. Me and Hunter at 8:30. We're excited for that. We'll be back Monday for a week ahead news show. And we should be bringing back, that's what I say, 8:30. We should be bringing back Healthy Living with me and Trevor here soon, too. Now that's springtime. Still snowing and cold, but, got to get the gardens ready. I've already gotten a lot of my seeds started. I like to wait because I know it always gets cold here in Ohio. But pretty easy. I already got my lavender sprouting, and I got my seeds for, like, my other stuff, like tomatoes, going. So excited for that. That's really it for me, everyone. Hope you all have a good night.
Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you, guys. Hope you enjoy the rest of your week. Peace.